says Joe. Yes, sir, says he. I will. You, says Joe. Beholden to you, Joe, says I. May your shadow never grow less. Repeat that dose, says Joe. Bloom was talking and talking with John Wise, and he quite excited, with his dunduckety mud-coloured mug on him, and his old plum eyes rolling about. Persecution, says he. All the history of the world is full of it, perpetuating national hatred among nations. But do you know what a nation means, says John Wise. Yes, says Bloom. What is it, says John Wise. A nation, says Bloom. A nation is the same people living in the same place. By God then, says Ned, laughing. If that's so, I'm a nation, for I'm living in the same place the past 5 years. So of course, everyone had a laugh at Bloom, and says he, trying to muck out of it, or also living in different places. That covers my case, says Joe. What is your nation, if I may ask, says the citizen. Ireland, says Bloom. I was born here, Ireland. The citizen said nothing, only cleared the spit out of his gullet, and gob, he spat a red bank oyster out of him right in the corner. After you with the push, Joe, says he, taking out his handkerchief to swab himself dry. Here you are, citizen, says Joe. Take that in your right hand and repeat after me the following words. And I belong to a race too, says Bloom, that is hated and persecuted, also now, at this very moment, this very instant. Gob, he near burnt his fingers with the butt of his old cigar. Robbed, says he, plundered, insulted, persecuted, taking what belongs to us by right, at this very moment, says he, putting up his fist. Sold by auction off in Morocco, like slaves or cattle. Are you talking about the New Jerusalem, says the citizen. I'm talking about injustice, says Bloom. Right, says John Wise, stand up to it then, with force, like men. There's an almanac picture for you, marked for a soft-nosed bullet. Old lardy face, standing up to the business end of a gun. Gob, he'd adorn a sweeping brush, so he would, if only he had a nurse's apron on him. And then he collapses all of a sudden, twisting around all the opposite, as limp as a wet rag. But it's no use, says he. Force, hatred, history, all that. That's not life for men and women, insult and hatred. And everybody knows that it's the very opposite of that is really life. What, says Alf. Love, says Bloom. I mean, the opposite of hatred. I must go now, says he to John Wise. Just round to the court a second, to see if Martin is there. If he comes back, just say I'll be back in a second, just a moment. Who's hindering you? And off he pops, like greased lightning. A new apostle to the Gentiles, says the citizen. Universal love. Well, says John Wise, isn't that what we're told? Love your neighbour? That chap, says the citizen. Beggar my neighbour is his motto. Love, Maya. He's a nice pattern of a Romeo and Juliet.